every gospel has what's known as its mini apocalypse. So, that time just before Jesus or just after Jesus dies and is resurrected, talking about the future, being prepared, about the destruction of the earth, of wars, disease, changes in the heavens, and so often, when that's been interpreted by those who want to pay more attention to it than I really think it's worth, when they interpret it, it's always something in the future, something we have to prepare for, something that we start looking for. So, as a result, throughout history, we have numerous times where people have used these mini apocalyptic moments to predict the end of the earth. And I know you know what I'm talking about because we hear about it every few years. And there's not been a time in recorded history where people have not done this and expect that the end of the earth is imminent. I think one of the reasons people do that is because it gives them some sense of control over what's going on around them. And if we learn anything from Jesus and the message of God, is that we are not in control. We don't have control. There's nothing we can do that can affect the outcome of the world. We can affect the outcome of people close to us, maybe for a while. We can collectively bring in the community that God's talking about, but individually, we're not going to have that insider information. We can't. It's so far beyond what we can conceive of, what we know. So that control, that sense of being in the inside, is something we have to disperse with as Christians. We cannot fall into the trap of thinking, oh, okay, now look at all these disasters. Now the end of the world is coming. We're not new in that. That has been something that people have been doing for the better part of 2 millennia. So when we look at this mini apocalypse, this talking about what's going to go on wrong, I think we have to look at it a little more fuller, few more dimensions in where we're looking, because when Jesus talks about the stars changing and messages in the sky, didn't we already go through this with the Nativity? When we talk about the Son of Man coming, well, we've already been through that. When it talks about the destruction of the worlds, well, if you're sitting in anywhere near Israel during the 80s, not our 80s, but 80s in the first century, only a decade or two after the destruction of the temple, then you are going to think that your entire world has been destroyed. If you're anywhere else where the Romans have come in and conquered, you're already going to look at wars and famines and destruction. So it's not a matter of what's coming as much as it's a matter of what's coming, what is, and what was. And this is really, really hard to kind of get our minds around. I was reading something, a novel the other day, and it talked about this woman who was dying. And she was talking with her sister about her own children and how she was leaving them. And she talked about how she loved them in the past tense, made sure they know she loved them. And then she was talking about how her children handled it and said, you be there for them because my son is not as strong as everybody thinks he is. And my daughter will withdraw and she'll get angry and she needs to not be allowed to do that. And then she started talking about her moment when she was dying and she's letting go of her husband. Past, present, and future were in that moment when she was dying. This is kind of what Jesus is about. Just like in the novel, Jesus is talking to his people when some of the last chances he's going to get about past, present, and future. Being in the present, knowing the future is going to come, knowing the past has already happened, but that they're all integrated. It's not a line on a chart where the past is over, the future hasn't happened. It's that what we know of time is so limited compared to what God understands with time. As we turn the tables on this passage, as we look at it a little more deeply, Jesus gives us some cues to this and some clues to work with. He talks about the fig leaf and how the fig tree is growing and how you know the new season is coming. But if you know anything about how trees grow, the fig leaf didn't just start when humans could see it. That fig leaf had been growing through the seasons when it was just kind of lying dormant. That's how growth happens. It's hidden until it's visible. And when it's visible, new things happen because it is a symbol of change, about getting ready, about the new season. In the case of the fig leaf, the new season for harvest, the new season for having new figs. But it doesn't just begin with that symbol. It has started long before that. Really, right down to when the seed was planted in the first place, when the tree started to grow in the earth. There is absolutely nothing for us to fear, Jesus tells us, and it's the truth. Change has happened, will continue to happen, will happen some more. Don't be looking for anything overt as if, now it's beginning. It's already been in process. It's already happened and will happen again. There's a circular sense of time when it comes to understanding God's world, which we, as I said, won't ever fathom, but we can certainly think about a little bit more and not be so worried about our here and now. Our here and now, all we're asked to do is be ready. Means don't get caught up in the values of the world. Be ready for when the community of God happens. Be part of it. Be a participating factor in the community of God. Don't fear it. Work towards it. And always, always in prayer and worship and praise and giving, be ready for the world God is talking about. This is some of the last messaging Jesus left us with. Every gospel has this. The last messaging Jesus left us with, for us to be prepared for something that is going to be changing, that has been changing, will continue to change. We are part of that process. We're not the beginning, we're not the end, but we're in the middle of something that is so much bigger than we can ever conceive of. And we just have to be open, and we have to be ready and not get so caught up in what people around us want to tell us is to be feared, because Jesus said, don't fear this. Just be ready for it. It will all work out in the end. That's Jesus' promise.